It's 8:43 on a Tuesday night. You're scrolling your phone, half watching something you won't remember tomorrow, and then the screen goes black. Not dead battery black, just off. You look up. The lights are gone. The hum of the refrigerator you never notice until it stops, gone. You wait for that familiar flicker, the comeback, the little oops, the grid hiccuped moment. But your phone doesn't find the network. It doesn't switch to backup. It just shows you a battery icon and nothing else. You walk to the window, and the street is dark. Not a single porch light. Not one. Car doors are slamming. Someone's yelling 3 houses down. An engine revs hard. Tires squeal. Like someone just decided right now is the time to leave. You turn the kitchen tap, and water coughs out. Weak, slower than it should be. Like the system is already forgetting how to work. And that's when you feel it. Not panic yet. Something colder. The realization that the world you woke up in this morning might not be the one you're living in by sunrise. Here's what nobody tells you. In many places, you've got about 72 hours before things stop being uncomfortable and start being dangerous. And here's the part that's even harder to hear. One of the first silent killers in a long blackout isn't hunger or thirst. It's what happens when toilets stop working and sanitation systems collapse. Disease, infection, contamination spreading through communities. The unsexy stuff that doesn't make it into movies, but kills people in the real world. But the bigger problem is this. You can't prepare for everything. Not unless you've got unlimited money, a warehouse, and a crystal ball. So you've got to choose. And if you choose wrong, you don't just waste money, you build a false sense of security while leaving yourself completely exposed to the thing that actually hits. So let's play the hardest game in the preparedness world. You get to prepare for exactly one disaster. 1. What do you pick? An EMP, pandemic, economic collapse, nuclear war, natural disaster? By the end of this video, you'll know which single choice covers the widest range of disasters, and you'll leave with a 14-day independence plan and a first-hour action guide. But first, you need to understand why most people get this decision completely backwards. When people think about disaster prep, they ask which disaster is most likely to happen. Sounds logical. It's also the wrong question, because the future doesn't care what you predicted. It only cares what you built. The right question is this: which preparation stays useful even when I'm wrong about what happens? So instead of betting on probability, we're going to judge disasters by 3 brutal criteria. How many systems does it break at once? How long does it realistically last? And does it destroy the environment, the infrastructure, the workforce, or the social trust? Let's run through the scenarios fast. An EMP or massive solar storm damages infrastructure but leaves the environment intact. Water sources exist. Soil still grows food. But the distribution systems, the infrastructure that moves resources, that's what dies. So an EMP isn't about tech dying. It's about distribution dying. A pandemic might keep the grid running, but the human network disintegrates. Workers don't show up. Truckers won't drive. Supply chains fracture because people won't risk exposure. A pandemic doesn't break wires. It breaks willingness. Economic collapse keeps the lights on and water flowing, but money becomes worthless overnight, and food becomes a political weapon. In economic collapse, money might exist, food might not. Natural disasters are geographically focused and time-limited. Help eventually arrives, but the prep model only works if rescue comes. Natural disasters have an end date. Long emergencies don't. Nuclear war combines blast, radiation, EMP, infrastructure collapse, and potentially long-term agricultural disruption. It's everything bad at once, the multi-headed hydra. Here's the pattern. Each disaster has a unique signature, but they share common failure modes. And the failure mode that appears in almost every scenario is this. The electrical grid goes down and stays down long enough that distribution systems collapse. Not a 3-hour outage. I mean weeks to months. Long enough that water pressure drops. Fuel can't be pumped. Stores don't restock. Sewage treatment fails. And the thin layer of just-in-time logistics holding civilization together starts to peel away. So here's the verdict. If you can prepare for only one disaster, prepare for extended grid failure. Not because it's most likely, but because it creates a foundation that works when pandemic hits and you need to isolate. It works when economic systems collapse and currency fails. It works when natural disasters cut you off. It even provides the baseline for nuclear scenarios, where you'd add radiation-specific knowledge to an already sustainable foundation. When you prepare for extended grid failure, you're forced to assume nothing external works, and that assumption becomes your safety net across the disaster spectrum. But to really understand why this works, you need to see the cascade in real time. In the first 6 to 12 hours after the grid dies, most people assume it's temporary. Some drive to gas stations just in case. Stores get crowded. If payment networks are down, cards fail. Rumors spread faster than facts. Your advantage isn't gear. It's not needing to go anywhere because you already have what you need. Between 24 and 72 hours, supply shock hits. In many areas, water pressure can begin dropping within 1 to 3 days depending on system design and backup power. Gas stations can't pump fuel. Refrigerated food spoils. Grocery stores empty because the delivery system broke. The store isn't a food system. It's a delivery schedule. And that schedule just stopped. 1 to 2 weeks in, sanitation becomes the silent crisis. If water is scarce, hygiene degrades. If sewage treatment fails, contamination risks explode. Trash piles up. People get sick from degrading conditions. Small cuts get infected. You know that feeling when you desperately need a bathroom? Imagine that with no running water, no flushing toilet, no hand soap. A grid-down event creates public health emergencies when there's no functioning medical infrastructure. If the outage stretches into 1 to 3 months, fuel is scarce, medical care is limited to what you can do yourself, information is fragmented, and security concerns rise as desperation increases. The people who planned for 3 days are in crisis. The people who built real independence are still functional. Now let me show you the traps to avoid. First mistake, prepping for drama instead of duration. People buy tactical gear but have 3 days of food. Reality, boring sustainability wins. Second mistake, water plans that depend on stores being open. Bottled water is a head start, not a plan. Third mistake, food that requires infrastructure to eat. Freeze-dried meals need water and heat. Fourth mistake, ignoring sanitation. Human waste and hygiene aren't optional, they're survival critical. Fifth mistake, the lone wolf fantasy. Real resilience is community and coordinated action. Listen, this is where most people lose the game. So what does real preparation look like? It starts with water, your fastest deadline. You need stored water to survive initial shock, and renewable purification for the long term. Target at least 2 weeks stored, roughly 1 gallon per person per day minimum. But storage is just a bridge. You need purification methods that don't require grid power. Filters like Sawyer or LifeStraw are excellent, but can get clogged. Chemical disinfection with bleach or tablets works, but has limitations. Boiling is reliable, but requires fuel. Here's the credibility moment. Improvised sand and carbo filters are useful pre-filters for sediment and taste, but they won't remove viruses or many chemical contaminants. You still need to disinfect by boiling or chemical treatment. Layer your methods and know your local water reality. Where would you actually get water if taps stop? If you don't know, you don't have a plan. Food works in layers. First layer, normal food you already eat, rotated continuously. Canned goods, pasta, rice. This covers 2 to 4 weeks. Second layer, bulk staples that last months to years. Rice, beans, oats, flour, oil, salt. Not glamorous, extremely effective. Third layer, production capability. Growing, preserving, foraging. Start small. Learn high-return crops for your climate. And critically, if your food requires cooking, then cooking fuel and method are integral parts of your food plan. You can have a year of rice, but if you can't cook it safely, you have decoration. Ask yourself, can I cook indoors without carbon monoxide poisoning? Do I have fuel stored? Propane stoves work with proper ventilation. Rocket stoves, alcohol stoves, viable with safety knowledge. What about winter heat or summer cooling? The goal is function, not comfort. If you remember one thing from this part, remember this. By day 4 of a long blackout, comfort stops being the issue. Disease control becomes the issue. You need a plan for human waste, hygiene, and trash. A bucket toilet with trash bags and sealing method. Bleach solution, hand sanitizer, ration soap. A squeeze bottle for hand washing with minimal water.
For trash, depending on local regulations and fire safety guidelines, options include composting organic waste, carefully burning where legally permitted, burying biodegradable waste away from water sources, or storing sealed trash away from living areas. Medical capability matters when hospitals run on backup until fuel or staffing fails. You need basic supplies, wound care, burn treatment, infection prevention. You need skills, stop bleeding, clean wounds, recognize dehydration. If you rely on prescriptions, talk to your doctor now about continuity plans. Your biggest wins come from prevention and early intervention. A clean cut heals. An ignored cut becomes life-threatening when antibiotics aren't available. Because in a blackout, convenience isn't gone, it's replaced with math. Light and information are twin pillars. You need safe lighting. LED flashlights, rechargeable headlamps with solar chargers, carefully supervised candles. But you also need information. When networks fail, rumor kills. Maintain a way to receive updates, battery or hand crank radio. Communicate locally with walkie-talkies or prearranged signals. Have a coordination plan, meeting points, check-in schedules. You're avoiding blindness in a situation where information means survival. Security is a layered system. First layer, don't advertise resources. Light discipline, noise discipline. Second layer, physical hardening, using simple, lawful deterrents. Reinforce doors, eliminate hiding spots, improve fencing or motion sensor lighting on battery backup. Third layer, situational awareness of what's changing around you. Fourth layer, community with trusted neighbors. 5 coordinated households beat 1 alone. Fifth layer, last resort, legal, responsible, trained capability if all else fails. Know your laws, get training, understand what defense means. Here's the thing nobody tells you about that first hour. Let me walk you through the first 60 minutes after the grid dies. Minutes 1 through 5, assess and confirm. Check if it's just your house or widespread. Look outside, listen, check battery radio. Minutes 5 through 15, if widespread, shift to conservation mode. Turn off devices to prevent surge damage. Don't open fridge, it stays cold if sealed. Fill bathtubs and containers while pressure exists. Minutes 15 through 30, check everyone in your household. Make sure everyone understands the plan. Contact trusted neighbors if safe. Minutes 30 through 60, set up lighting, pull out water and food supplies, check cooking setup, access sanitation supplies, review security, shift mentally from temporary to prepare to sustain as long as needed. That first hour sets your trajectory, panic or preparation. Here's your practical anchor. Could you live 14 days at home with no power, no running water, no stores, no outside help? Not comfortably, just safely. Now, the immediate next steps you can do this week. First, store at least 7 days of water per person, 1 gallon per day minimum. Buy 1 quality filter and 1 bottle of bleach for backup. Second, purchase 2 weeks of non-refrigerated food you actually eat. Don't overthink it. Double your pantry. Third, assemble sanitation kit. Bucket, trash bags, bleach, soap, toilet paper, hand sanitizer. Fourth, get LED flashlights or rechargeable headlamp with solar charger, plus battery or hand crank radio. Test everything. Fifth, have the conversation with your household. What's the plan if power's out for a week? Where's water? Food? How do we handle bathroom? Who checks on whom? Talk to trusted neighbors. Knowing you're not alone changes everything. These 5 actions don't require a bunker or massive budget. They require 1 focused week. After that, you're more prepared than the vast majority around you. Here's why this beats specialized prep. Person A prepped only for pandemic. Masks, meds, isolation supplies. Pandemic hits, they're solid. But power goes out for 2 months. Can't purify water indefinitely. No sustainable food. They're in trouble. Person B prepped for economic collapse. Gold, silver, barter goods. Economy crashes, they're positioned. Natural disaster hits, stores close for 3 weeks. Precious metals can't buy unavailable food. They're hungry. Person C prepped for extended grid failure, water independence, food sustainability, sanitation, cooking, medical, security. Any scenario hits and they adapt. Pandemic? Isolate with supplies. Economic collapse? Not dependent on currency. Natural disaster? Don't need rescue. Limited nuclear event? Have the baseline, can add radiation-specific responses. Person C prepared for the foundational failure mode that appears in almost everything. If you're at ground zero of a blast or trapped under collapse, no prep changes physics. Preparedness isn't immortality, it's improving odds in survivable scenarios. And in those scenarios, the fundamentals, water, food, sanitation, shelter, medicine, information, security, matter infinitely more than the coolest gear.